Welcome to Visual Communication and Media. My name is Adam Rozeski. It's a pleasure to see each and every one of you. Hope everybody's having a great week. Welcome to spring quarter, first term, and you guys get to have me for 5.5 weeks. So, really excited to have you all here for my first version. You're probably asking yourself, what is visual communication? I mean, I know visuals, I know we draw them and we build them, and sometimes we communicate messages with them, but we use them a lot to show things, but I understand how to communicate visually. I know how to use signs and symbols on how I've been brought up, but you're probably wondering the intent on those visuals, how they're built, what goes behind them, what are specific messages and elements that are used to make that visual in more ways than one. For example, lines. Lines are a straight point to showing somebody something. They direct movement, they direct understanding, and different sizes of lines and directions allow people to trust things or make it a little bit more free flow. Shapes and colors show emotions, and visuals and how they're portrayed with everything really illuminate somebody's emotions from anger to happiness to sadness. And then putting certain visuals up there to trigger emotions on a more level and ethical situations, and seeing how people use these visuals to trigger persuasion in a lot of different ways and how they do about this. There's so many more things, and I'm not just talking about visuals like in marketing or in politics or anything, but I'm talking about certain codes and certain elements, especially with nurses, where certain codes and colors mean different things in different emergencies on how to react to those things. Visuals are built to send messages, and there are elements of each visual that trigger those messages and make things different, much like the alphabet or letters themselves and how they're chained with associations. And that's what I'm going to teach you this next few weeks, is how visuals matter and how visuals can be built to communicate things, because we communicate 80% visually more than we do audibly in more ways than one. And I'm going to really guide you through this and really show how they can be used in more ways and how a lot of people use them to trigger specific responses in more ways than one. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of heads up, so I started all sorts of jobs. I was a competitive gamer after I left Penn State, after I played hockey and tore my knee out a long time ago trying to make it to the pros. It was cool seeing Ovechkin get the record today. That was sweet. Anyway, started all sorts of odd jobs, worked in the airlines for my dad a long time, became an HR manager, and I was really young, but I was a big gamer and I wanted to get into video games. I did a lot of competitive gaming before esports was a real big thing. Did a lot of driving sims like Gran Turismo, some Battlefront, some third-person RPGs, and then I was a big RPG gamer and MMO gamer, so I competed a lot over there. But then I went to Full Sail and UCF, and I got my bachelor's degree in entertainment business, and I double mastered in project management and game design, where I got those. And then I worked for a lot of different companies. I started off with a small studio out of Full Sail called GP Games. Then I got picked up at Activision as an analyst, and then moved to EA, and then I worked my way up as a designer and a producer. And then I opened up a whole bunch of small studios. One still exists to this day. There are also a lot of different elements, and then I helped build a lot of different small companies up to what they were as a project manager and a senior project manager. And then I got hired on by the military to do to work with the Air Force to do VR simulation and help them out for a year or so and help manage over 200, 300 people. Worked on a lot of projects, at least 40 games in my career. I think it's up to 50 now, and then at least 40 military projects. So I bounced around, and I've helped scale teams from small scales to big scale. And I know what design matters, and I know how visuals are interpreted, especially building user interfaces and UX elements, and that's how I've really managed my career in a lot of ways. And now I'm a teacher full time while running my own project management business. And I'm currently the director of game design for my high school that I teach at, and then I also teach here, and then I also run a project management consultant business for game studios on the West Coast, and that's pretty much what I am right now. So yeah, a little bit about me. However, so for visual communication, I'm just going to go over the types of assignments that you have in this course, and then we'll go into detail on lecture on Tuesday, and I'll talk about lecture here in a minute and how those are super important. But I only have written assignments and discussions and live lectures, and we'll talk about live lectures in a second. But discussions, initial posts are due on Tuesday, reply posts due Saturday, as always. except for week 6, that's going to be all on Tuesday because, again, you're in the first quarter for the first term, so you only get 2 days for your week 6, and we'll cover that and go from there, and I'll talk to Hal about that. But remember, initial posts are always due on Tuesday, reply posts due on Saturday as always. First week, I'm a little bit lenient on assignments, so if you need anything, and there was also some late ads, and some people always trying to adjust to the new schedule and everything, so if you need anything about that, just let me know and communicate with me. My biggest thing is if you're late on any assignment or you're going to be late or you're having an issue, just contact me through the course messages. That's the biggest way to reach me, and that will help you out more ways than one. So please make sure you communicate with me, so I'll help you out a lot more, and don't wait till like the last week right before week 6 because that's going to really put you behind in more ways than one. So, but initial post due on Tuesday, reply post due on Saturday. And also, one of the biggest things I had is please don't give me 1 to 2 sentences on all your posts. I look for at least 2 paragraphs per each post and a minimum of 4 to 5 sentences per each paragraph. So I like to see at least 8 to 10 sentences total, and really take a look at the rubrics. They're all posted on the announcements. They all help you out. And then I also have written assignments. They're always due Sunday, and they take the form of a scenario of you being a marketing analyst or some type of producer or creator, and you have to analyze certain images that will work for your own company or your own firm in more ways than one, and show how their visuals matter. And so we have a lot of analytical papers and some analytical assignments, so that'll definitely help you out. Now keep in mind, assignments are due always on Sunday. Make sure they're completed by the end of the day Sunday, because once they roll over to Monday, they're going to be late. Except for the last week, which is the final day, May 13th. That'll be a Tuesday, so keep that in mind. Now, live lectures. This is really huge for me, so I'm okay if you have any issues or anything with your assignments. Plus, if you do bad on an assignment, you are always welcome to do a second version or a third version or a fourth version until you get that to the grade that you want it to do. I'm okay with doing updates or remakes or anything like that. Just communicate with me if you want to do a second version or a third version with your assignments, and I'm all for that. And I'm okay with this, because just keep in contact with me. That's the biggest thing, because once it hits over the 7 days, I mark it as 0, and I also take 5% off each day it's late, so I'll just keep that in mind and go from there. But lectures are huge for me. I don't take lectures late, live lectures, and I'll show you how to complete the live lectures for the first lecture on Tuesday. Speaking of which, live lectures are always on Monday except for week 1 and week 6. They'll always take place 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, except for week 1. Week 1's going to be on Tuesday. I don't want to drop a lecture right on y'all on Monday. That's kind of unfair. So it gives you a day to kind of understand everything. So you'll see me on Tuesday this week. And then every other week except for week 6, week 2 through 5, those 4 lectures, they're all going to be on Mondays, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, as always. And then week 6, I do my lecture on Sunday. That's actually going to be 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central time on Sunday. So you have that lecture available to you, and that's what's pretty big right there, because you only have 2 days that week. I don't think it's fair to drop a lecture on Monday, so you only have like a day or two to do that. So you'll have at least 2 days with the lecture, and that should help you out. So keep that in mind. Now, it's okay if you missed the lecture. You don't have to be there for it, because I know people have jobs and everything. Even though I'd like to, sometimes it's a little tough talking to myself. So I would like some friends. And plus, a lot of my lectures are discussions in a lot of ways, and they have some discussion elements, so that can help you out in more ways than one, so keep that in mind. So if you're more, I would love to have you for those lectures, and that would be great. But if you miss it, I always post a recording later that evening or the next Tuesday morning a lot of times. So you should have it within 24 hours online, an announcement. And there will be a link to it on the announcement. You can click and go to it, and that'll be good. So the biggest thing about lectures is, for me, and it's in my syllabus and everything, live lectures. Live lectures have to be done by Sunday. There is no late with it. You have to complete them by the end of the day, Sunday night, all right, each week. Because if you do not turn them in, they're pass-fail, and they're tied to your attendance. So, and also, there are 5 points, 6 of them, that's 30 points. That can get you from a B to an A C to a B, if you do those, and that really matters. And you need to make sure your live lectures are completed on Sunday, no matter what, unless there's an emergency, and you need to contact me about that emergency. So that's a big thing. And I'll show you how to complete the live lectures on Tuesday for the first lecture, and show how it's done each week, so you know how to accomplish that stuff. But other than that, keep in mind, late assignments, they're going to be 5% of your grade each day that's late, except for week 1. Once it hits 7 days, it automatically becomes a 0. Now, be courteous and respectful in your discussion posts, and be thorough. That's the big thing. Please don't give me like one sentence or a couple words. That's not going to count. You have to analyze your examples. You got to provide examples and details for your arguments. So you got to make sure that when you're giving feedback to a classmate or when you're providing your own discussions, that has to be detailed and understandable, and that's what really matters. So please make sure to be thorough in your discussions. Other than that, let's go over and have some fun, and I hope we have some good discussions and everything. Hope I can teach you something that'll help out. But other than that, see y'all on Tuesday. Be safe, have fun, enjoy, and I'll see you later. Take it easy. Welcome to class. Bye-bye.